When I say the world has changed, people say, yeah, change is constant. There's nothing to see here. Well, sure, change is constant. My point is there are at least three megatrends that have recently reversed after a couple of generations of moving in the opposite direction. The first is interest rates. Rates were in the mid to high teens around 1980 and dropped all the way to 0% by the beginning of 2022. That's a massive tailwind for both capital markets and the economy that lasted over 40 years. And virtually everyone agrees that it's over. More recently, interest rates were raised to fight inflation, and although they've been lowered a little bit in the past few months, no one seriously expects rates to go much lower than they are right now. I'm not saying that rates are high or unreasonable, but that a multi-generational trend of rates heading downward is a thing of the past. The world has changed. The second thing I want to point out is that the Berlin Wall came down in 1989, followed by the Soviet Union collapsing in 1991. And when that happened, commentators everywhere were celebrating what they called the peace dividend. A large chunk of government spending had been put toward military preparedness because of the Cold War. After 2 generations, the Cold War ended, and much of that military spending was diverted to economic growth. Now we're in a world where some countries openly challenge the rule of law by attacking weaker neighbors, and military allies admonish their partners for not spending enough on defense. With the geopolitical threat of escalating warfare higher than it has been in 30 years, tens of billions of dollars that might have otherwise been spent on growing the economy are now going to protecting countries' borders. Finally, we have a shift away from trade liberalization toward what has been called de-globalization and reshoring. This is absolutely unprecedented in our lifetimes. From the time the Canada-US Free Trade Agreement was enacted in 1989 to the present, there's been an expectation that impediments would be lowered or abolished, and that the free flow of goods and services could proceed unfettered by the uncertainty of tariffs. That's no longer the case. There are other ongoing threats, like how we adapt to the threats of AI and how we deal with climate change, but you get the picture. The world today is simply not set up for economic expansion as it has been for the adult lives of everyone listening and watching. The intent here is not to be optimistic or pessimistic, but to get people to acknowledge that things have changed. I have friends and colleagues that I respect immensely whose advice does not change because they do not think the things I've just mentioned are relevant. To hear them tell it, lots of things have ebbed and flowed throughout history, so investors would be foolish to adjust their holdings based on those developments. I respect my friends and colleagues, but I cannot agree with them. In 2025, far too many financial advisors are acting as though the things I've just pointed out aren't relevant for how people should invest. I disagree. I believe it's self-evident that the world has become more dangerous, and as a result, I believe it is prudent and responsible to recommend portfolios that are less aggressive, more resilient, and tailored toward an environment where the threat of inflation is always present. If you share my concern and my worldview, I invite you to contact me to see if I can be of assistance.